Welcome back, folks. I'm Myrna Santos. It's October the 21st, 2019, and this is the second in the 2019 series of Dighton's Community Corner on Local Channel 9 on cable television. We have a special guest this evening. It's our selectman, Mrs. Nancy Goulart, and she's going to discuss a bit about the upcoming special town meeting, which is going to take place next week. And she's also going to update us a bit on where we stand with a few initiatives that the town already has in progress. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming tonight and joining with us.
It's a pleasure.
Before we start, Dighton's Community Corner has a tradition that started with our very first program in 2013. That will continue as long as I am hostess here. We Americans are fortunate people to live in the greatest nation in the history of the world. And many brave souls have paid the ultimate sacrifice for that freedom. So, in keeping with the tradition, let's begin by acknowledging and honoring the great land we are privileged to share by pledging allegiance to the United States flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much for joining with us. On the last program, I mentioned that we'd be meeting with our town officials from time to time, and since there is to be that special town meeting next Monday evening, I thought this would be a good time to review the articles on the warrant for the meeting so that people can begin to formulate their own questions and decisions on the matters to be decided there. Mrs. Goulart has graciously consented to talk with me a bit about that meeting and about the articles. I know from years of experience that being an informed voter is the best thing that any person can do for its own community. So tonight, there will be no back and forth discussion. It's purely informational. Subsequent questions and decisions rest with you, the voters of Dighton, and this program has no intention of swaying thoughts in any one direction. But before Nancy and I begin our discussion, there are a few events coming up to share with everyone. I know I probably don't have them all, but there are a few. Wednesday evening, October the 23rd, that's 2 days from now, at Arujo Farms on William Street, there's going to be teal pumpkin yoga from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. There's a small fee going to be charged, and all proceeds will go to food allergy research and education. Registration is required, and there's a phone number, 508-669-6988. Next Saturday, October 26th, will be a busy day. At Dighton Community Church's Friendship Hall on Elm Street, the Dighton Fire Department is offering a free training, Stop the Bleed. It's a training course in what to do if someone is bleeding until help can arrive. It could help you save a life, and it is, as I said, a free training. Also on October the 26th, the Dighton Historical Society is hosting a psychic fair and craft sale from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. right here in this old town hall. Next, of course, is the special town meeting, and that's at the Dighton Middle School on Monday evening, October the 28th at 7 p.m. And on Sunday, November the 4th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. is the 15th annual Dighton Lions Club Arts Festival at Arujo Farms. There will be more than 70 arts and crafts vendors, local musicians, great food, the chowder is outstanding, and much more. There will be a shuttle and free parking at Mannheim Auto Auction up at the end of William Street. And you can find more information on the website, www.dightonlionsfestivals.com. That's all I have for announcement. I hope I missed anything important There are probably some that I'm unaware of. But what I'd like to do now is get into our discussion because we've got a big town meeting coming up, and I'm going to kind of turn this over to Nancy.
Okay. May I put in a plug?
Yeah, please do.
I have an event also, and we're fortunate to have the number of churches that we have in this community. We've always been a town of churches.
Yes, we have.
Some closed and new ones are built and new ones open and
We have
some
9
merged.
right now.
So November 3rd, which is a Saturday, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., there's a craft fair at St. Nicholas of Myra, 499 Spring Street. Craft, foods, raffles, vendors, lots of things, maybe do some shopping early. And then the other thing I would mention is that we will be having the Veterans Breakfast also on November the 3rd.
November the 3rd.
Yes. And that's at the West Dighton Church. That's for all veterans and their guests. And that's at 9 in the morning. And if you plan to go, just give Don Hershey a call at Veterans Services.
Wonderful.
So we have a head count, but it's
Thank you.
excellent.
Thank you, because I knew there would be something I would miss. Absolutely. Speaking of churches, just as an aside, the Dighton Community Church, formerly the Church of the Lower Four Corners in the 1700s, will be celebrating its 250th anniversary in 2020. And just last month, the Brick Church, the first congregational church of Dighton, celebrated 311 years.
Wow.
So we've got some long-standing church history in town, and that's a project I'm working on, other than here. Okay, back to town meeting.
So as Mrs. Santos said, we have the special town meeting Monday evening, the 28th, 7 p.m., Dighton Middle School. Get there early so you can check in and get a good seat. It sounds like a theater. In looking at the warrant, after the usual, required articles are read and acted upon, the first one we have is Article 2. It is to see if the town will vote to authorize an expenditure of $22,000 for personnel expenses for employees covered under the recently settled Highway Union Collective Bargaining Agreement. I'm specifically not saying raise and appropriate or transfer because the Finance Committee will meet Thursday night, 6:30 of this week at Town Hall, and we don't have the Finance Committee recommendations. So I'm just going to talk about what these articles are for, and those decisions will be made at the Finance Committee meeting. So the contract with the Highway Department Workers Union has been settled, and that's what that money is requested for. The Article 3 is $414,925, and this is to be expended by the Board of Selectmen to make the second payment on the police station bond. Article 4 is an amount not to exceed $1,000 to pay prior year bills. Last I heard, we did not have any, so if there aren't any by the time we have town meeting, this article will not be acted on. Article 5 is for $18,000 to develop a municipal vulnerability plan and hazard mitigation plan. Governor Baker filed legislation that was passed to help communities across the state to prepare for climate change, which really is affected by weather. And this could be anything from hurricanes to blizzards to continuing rising high tides.
Heaven forbid tornadoes.
Yes. And I will tell you this. A week ago, there was a large group of individuals in this hall, and representatives were here from Fuss & O'Neill, an engineering company. They are helping us form, gather information so we can file for grant money to help us with the development of this plan. And what was really good was there was a huge map of the town of Dighton. Everyone around the table was asked to look at it and try to identify places where there are potentials for hazards. So if you eliminate the Taunton River and the other two rivers in town, people started looking at places where brooks flood, where streets go underwater, where there are dams and things like that. And everyone had an opportunity to write something on a sticky note and put it on here. So the engineers have taken that. That's going to be part of our plan. But this money is to help us work on this.
No one knows a town or an area of a town better than the people who live in that area. So if you're near a brook or you're near an area where there's a possibility, you see something in the spring, for example, that other people don't. We have a stream that goes through our property, and it's always over its banks in the springtime. Not that it's a major flood problem, but that's one area that is of the type that people might be bringing up.
There's an intermittent spring on Lincoln Avenue, and probably right now it's just a depression in the lawn. But when we get heavy rain, it's not a depression, it's full. And the other thing we're very fortunate about is we have people who hold office in town, or our town employees, who have hunted and fished this town for years.
Yes.
And the hunters and fishermen in this town are really very well schooled in things out there that most of us wouldn't see.
Exactly.
Because they're not along the country roads.
No, exactly.
So that's very helpful. But every town department was represented, and it was very, we had 2 hours, and we were just under 2 hours, we got all of the work done. So we will be getting information back, and we also identified other community groups that we need to contact who may have some kind of input that we haven't thought of yet. So
Wonderful.
Article 6, $230,000 for the highway department to purchase a road sweeper. This has been talked about. We've talked about 5-year wish list. The 5-year wish lists are not a 5-year wish list anymore. They are now a 5-year plan. And Mr. Ferry is looking to replace the road sweeper we have. The stormwater requirements now have become so stringent and so difficult that we not only have to have I always mess this up, street sweeping, we have to actually do all the records of how much we remove and what do we do with it.
Oh boy.
And
Yeah.
fortunately, Mr. Ferry's program for maintaining roads in the wintertime that has reduced the amount of sand that's being used, cuts down on the amount of debris that has to be taken out of the catch basins. Just one note, folks, please, under the stormwater program and under the anti-litter program, if you can, control litter, control waste. We see people who do walk their animals and pick up after the animals. But what you pick up should go into a waste receptacle. Please, don't throw it in storm drains, because we found it there, and that's additional work.
Yeah.
Very, very important. Storm drains are not public sewer. The storm drains that you see on the sides of the road and your sidewalks truly are storm drains. And eventually that water goes to the nearest river. So we want to be careful about that.
Absolutely. I have a quick question.
Yes.
You're talking about the highway department and a road sweeper in winter. Is he still using a molasses emulsion?
Yes.
That's an interest. Now, people may not know that. I think that's something we ought to mention a little bit. We have sweet roads in Dighton.
They smell good. When I referenced the fact that Mr. Ferry and the highway department have reduced the amount of sand that they use, the mixture that they use is molasses, magnesium, and salt. And when it's going to storm, you may see them out there, and they're pre-treating the roads. And then when it snows and the snow reaches a certain depth, they start plowing. But they also finish the process with this. The magnesium keeps it it lowers the freezing point. So that means that the roads will stay wet longer before they ice up. But I believe he's been doing this now going on 3 years, and he may be entering the 4th winter, because I remember hearing about this when I came back in 2015.
Yes.
And Channel 10 in Providence did quite a story on that.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Mr. Ferry doesn't like attention. And
No, he doesn't, but when we have the sweetest roads in southeastern Massachusetts, we need to know about that.
But it does have a nice smell. And it does have a brown color, but it is not the consistency of the molasses you buy in the store or as a food product.
No, you can't eat it.
No, it's not a byproduct. But that molasses actually helps the chemicals stay on the road, adhere better, and that's how it works. So, Mr. Ferry, if we have embarrassed you tonight, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not.
But we give you
I'm just
credit.
glad we know.
And actually, it's less expensive than buying all of the sand and things like that. And it goes further. Article 7. This is to have $2,000 to fund the ADA coordinator's budget. Now, the ADA coordinator had submitted a budget for the annual town meeting, but I believe in the process of looking at what they were going to present at town meeting back in June, the Finance Committee reduced that ADA's budget to 0 because, again, when we go to town meeting in June, we are looking to come in with a balanced budget that doesn't exceed the levy limit. So the special that's coming up is when we will finalize the budget, and we're waiting to know for sure how much free cash we have so that we know exactly what's available. Article 8 is $7,500 to construct a accessible ramp for disabled children at the outdoor classroom at the Dighton Elementary School. Article 9 is $10,000 to make upgrades to the network infrastructure, including computers, switches, wiring, and related equipment at town facilities, including Town Hall. One of the things that they found when they were trying to link all the computers together was some of them are so old that the operating systems now will not work well. So we've got to replace some equipment, and that's what that money is for. Article 10 is $24,000 to be expended by the police chief to purchase an unmarked detective's vehicle with related accessories. Article 11 is $6,000 to be expended by the Board of Health to retrofit and letter a used surplus vehicle for the animal control officer. Article 12 is for $23,000. This is actually for the cable committee, and this is a transfer from what is called PEG, access funds. That's not raise and appropriate, that's not transfer for free cash, so I can mention the source. That means there are funds already available to fund this article. Article 13 is $5,000, and this is another account where there is money already, and the harbor master is asking for permission to spend that money to replace the fabric top on the town boat and to construct a centralized mounting platform for lights, antenna, and navigational equipment on the town boat. Article 14, this is $68,000 for a utility body truck with snow plow and necessary accessories for the fire department. Article 15, $40,000 to demolish the structure located at 949 Somerset Avenue. This is the house that is right near the north driveway. This was the house, the lot that was purchased with funds from last year. And if this article is passed, it doesn't mean that house is going to be taken down because we have the 6-month historical
Demolition delay.
Yes.
Yes.
Article 16 is $50,000 to be expended by the Highway Department to purchase a wide area mower. Excuse me. I think most people know that the Highway Department does a lot more than maintain streets. They do a lot of the mowing here in town. As a matter of fact, the highway department does everything in this town that nobody else does. So they wear a lot of hats, and this would allow them to get this mower that they're talking about. Article 17 is $47,250 for the highway department to purchase a new 1-ton pickup and related equipment. I believe this one was proposed for the annual town meeting, and it was decided to defer it so that we would stay under the levy limit at that meeting. Article 18 is $35,000 for the highway department to purchase a man lift or take any action relative thereto. My understanding, this is similar to a bucket lift, except that it has actually a platform. You've probably seen these tree workers or utility workers sometimes, but it's like a box with a railing that actually lifts them up. So in addition to having a secure place to work, they could have other equipment with them when they're raised up to the area where they're working. Article 19, $28,035 for the installation of sidewalks along Center Street, Somerset Avenue, Pearl, and Main Streets. Now, obviously, $28,035 is not going to provide sidewalks. It's going to supplement what you already gave us. I'm thinking it was around 2015. I remember making a motion asking for the townspeople to vote to accept up to $450,000 in grant money from the states for something called the Complete Streets Program. Of that $450,000, it's grant money. The first up to $50,000 could be used for layout and engineering and things like that. Mm-hmm. We did get the money for that. It was less than $50,000, but we did get the appraisals done, we got the drawings done, and excuse me, we have the layout. That's been done. We also have some money set aside to pay landowners. This is supplemental money we need in addition to what we have. We are also waiting to hear if we are going to get grant funding for that project. It's a competitive project. There's so much budgeted at the state level each year. We were not in the round of approved projects last year, but that's okay because we got all our other work done. So we are again applying for state money to help us pay for this. And as it said, it would be Somerset Avenue from behind the 1712 pub down to the Main Street intersection and just slightly around the corner there onto Main Street.
Going east?
Going south. Going south and then turning west.
Turning west, so going towards Richmond Hill.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Pearl Street, it's an area in front of St. Nicholas Church, and it goes south and turns the corner easterly right at School Street. The other thing that Mr. Ferry wants to do up there is, those of you familiar with that intersection, Warner Boulevard, Spring Street, Pearl Street, that is one huge intersection. And at times, because of the way it's laid out, it's a traffic problem. So there will be some reconstruction of the layout of the Warner Boulevard, Spring Street, Pearl Street intersection. And then the Center Street sidewalk will be from the intersection with Somerset Avenue down here at the lights. It will be on the south side, which is the same side as the school driveway, and it will go up to just about across from Stonegate Landing. So that we will have a sidewalk that goes up past the school drives and will stop right near Stonegate. So this will add additional safe walking space because it's a high traffic area. And we do know
walkers.
Yes, and we do know now that we have a sidewalk that goes all the way to the river. Many people use that area. It's a great walk. So again, we're also anticipating some state money to help us pay for those sidewalks. But we can continue working on it, what we have to do.
Is there a projected time frame if, say a grant came through within the next fiscal year? Do we have a projected time frame for completing any of this? Where will it start?
Right now, we got the money for engineering, so we did the engineering that. We got money from the voters, so that we have money now that we can meet with the property owners and talk about easements. And I don't think there are any land takings, but we can resolve all of that. If we get some money from the state, we can move ahead with sidewalks. If we get all the money we're hoping for, Mr. Ferry will schedule these within his regular work and depending upon the season that we're in. So we're not being held up because we're waiting for state funding. We're going to keep working, and for those people that live on those streets, we will be talking to you. But right now, our priority is the Miller's Lane project, and I'll get to that in a little bit.
That's down the road.
Yes, down the road literally.
Yes.
Article 20, $8,000 for the Board of Assessors to do the fiscal year 2021 revaluation of real estate and commercial property. Article 21, $13,990, and this is to replenish the following data processing budgets. The network data processing, $8,000, and the treasurer/collector data processing, $5,990, for the total of $13,990. Article 22, $6,000 to be expended by the highway superintendent for an enclosed trailer to store voting equipment. And actually, this is sort of a joint purchase. The highway department, again, because of all the hats they wear, they have to move all of the voting equipment that is currently stored in the north hallway underneath the stairway. So that means moving sensitive equipment from the building to the school, bring it back, stick it under there. If we can get approval to buy this, the money will be, the trailer will be enclosed. They can put the equipment in it, and when it's needed, they'll take it out of storage and take it to the school, and it won't be under the stairs.
Won't be under the stairs, and that will be a great improvement.
Yes. Article 23 is $15,000, and this is to be expended by the Board of Selectmen for surveying and engineering along Main Street. And for the people who live on the far western end of Main Street, please come out and vote for this. The engineering that the town is looking to do will be what is needed so that the water district can replace a pipeline up there. The repairs to that road and sidewalks have not been done because once a road is finished, you don't want it dug up to put in pipelines. So you try to do it all at the same time. So this $15,000 is the engineering money that's needed to do that. Article 24 is $200,000 for other post-employment benefits, the liability trust fund. And every year at each meeting, we try to put money into that. From what I understand, this town is ahead of a number of communities around here. So whether or not it will be $200,000, again, this is a decision for the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen once they see what we actually have. Article 25 is to put $200,000 into the capital stabilization account. Again, this will depend on what we have available. I will mention that earlier in the warrant, when I mentioned the $414,000 for the bond issue, a second payment on the bond issue at the police station, if the money is available, this will be taken out of available funds, which means it won't be raised and appropriate, so that that bond payment will not be part of the tax rate. So again, we'll wait to see how things work out as we go through the meeting. And
Excuse me just a minute. We've just had a 5-minute signal on this program. I'm wondering if we can extend it so that we can cover the rest of this warrant, because there's a lot of information here and folks are getting some very good facts to work with. Thank you very much. Excuse me.
Article 26, $8,000 to be expended by the Council on Aging. What the council would like to do is cover the ramp that leads into the Primetime building. Because in the wintertime, it gets very slippery And when the weather is bad, especially with individuals with walkers or canes or whatever, this will provide a cover over that. There is some grant money involved. This would be what the town would have to come up with to help fund this project. Article 27 is a non-binding referendum. And this is, I'll read it as it's written. Should the town consider by ballot vote at the first annual town election, changing the name of the executive body of the town from the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board, which would have the powers and authority of a Board of Selectmen under any general or special laws. If the majority vote to approve placing this on the ballot for April, then Article 28, which spells out all of the wording that goes with that, it means that we would act on Article 28, and if that is voted and approved on the April ballot next year, there would be a question on whether or not the people in town want to change the name of the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board. And Article 29 is a change in zoning bylaws that relate to kennels. Article 30 is acceptance of a chapter of the Mass General Laws that would establish a commission on disability in the town. And 31 is I call it the closing article, to act on any other business that may lawfully come before the meeting. So that's the information on our special town meeting.
And I have a question that many people raise to me. What is free cash, quote unquote? Because nothing's free, we know that. And people do not understand the meaning of that term. So I'll leave that to your expertise to explain that to us.
You know, she's right, nothing's free. There's no free lunch, as the saying goes. But quite often people think that free cash means you have been overtaxed throughout the year and the money wasn't spent and now we're going to spend it again. What free cash is made up of is any amount left in the budget that is not expended. For example, if we think that we are going to have, I'll give you a good example. If Mr. Ferry were to buy a piece of equipment, that $230,000 piece of equipment, and when it went out and got the information, it's only $200,000, well, obviously there's $30,000 left. He can't spend that on anything else because that article said it was for that piece of equipment. So that $30,000 would sit there until the fiscal year ends on June 30th. So that's an unexpended balance in an article. It's also possible that within a departmental budget, there is unexpended money. That would also close out. However, a very important part of free cash is local receipts. Local receipts consists of all those fees you pay for permits, for licensing, for just about anything you charge for. It's all in free cash. So when the reports go in after the books are closed, the Department of Revenue goes over everything with a fine-tooth comb, and when they're satisfied that the information they have is correct and accurate, they will certify that. That's what we're waiting for right now. And when that notification comes in, that's the state saying to the town, this is the exact amount you have in free cash. So it means it's certified, the cash is available and can be spent by a town meeting vote.
Which would mean that then you would have to come up with reasons to spend it.
Yes.
You can't just simply go in and decide to do something. You've got to follow the same procedure that we have right here.
Correct.
With a decision on some type of a purchase, and then a town meeting article and finance committee involvement and approval or whatever, so that it's controlled. It isn't sitting there and you've got $100,000 and you just decide you want to spend $10,000 on something, and you can't just spend it. It has to go through the
Town meeting process.
Town meeting process. That's the basis of government, and that applies to all of the money. And I know free cash is a questioned term, so I wanted to make sure we touched on that.
In the regional school district, what they call excess and deficiency is actually their free cash. And the law changed a number of years ago so that now regional school districts have to have their, whether you call it free cash or excess and deficiency funds, certified by the state. The other thing that's important, going back to, I think it was 2002 was the first year I served on the finance committee. The finance committee that we've had over these past years has been relatively stable, meaning not a lot of change in membership. And Mr. Swartz has chaired that committee for, I think, all of those years. And he always makes sure that we still have some money left in free cash. We don't spend it all. The reason for that is, after this meeting in October, and the decisions are made on what's going to be raise and appropriate and what's free cash and everything else, the tax rate gets set. Once the tax rate gets set, there's no more raise and appropriate. If there were a situation that arose in the town that we needed cash, we would hopefully have money in free cash. We would call a special town meeting and explain to the voters, we need to make this repair or we need to purchase this item, and we have money in free cash. That means it's not going to affect the tax rate, but it also means the only way you can spend it is with voter approval.
Now that brings to mind the other term, which people don't understand, and that's stabilization fund.
Yes.
And maybe we could use an explanation.
Okay,
just a basic, so that you can understand that there is a stabilization fund. There is also this quote-unquote free cash, E&D. And so what is stabilization? What's the difference?
Correct. Stabilization, we actually have two accounts. We have the stabilization account and we have the capital stabilization account. They are like savings accounts. And in order to get money out of or put money into those accounts, you have to have a town meeting. There's a 2/3 vote required. So for example, I think most of you remember that we had to do something at the elementary school because of overcrowding. And the school committee asked for modular classroom units. It was well over $1 million. There was money in, initially it was going to be stabilization, but as it turned out, we had money in free cash. So the money to get those modular units did not affect the tax rate. And we didn't deplete our stabilization, our capital stabilization account. The regular stabilization account, as I said, is like a savings account. It's like a rainy day fund. And we've tried over the years not to take anything out of that account unless it was absolutely necessary. And the only thing I could think of that came out of that stabilization account was, I believe it was $60,000 to do the master plan, and that money was replaced at a following town meeting out of free cash. So we have to maintain a reasonable stabilization account. Capital stabilization, we look at that money as setting money aside to buy pieces of equipment or some other thing that might be planned, but something might come along that's unexpected. But again, the stabilization accounts, accessing money requires voter approval, and it is stricter because it is a 2/3 majority vote. It's not a simple majority. The other account I will mention is the OPEB account. I talked about a possible $200,000 going in there. That's another earmarked account that you just can't take that money and spend it on anything. It's earmarked for that retiree benefit account for group insurance and things like that.
And that just to touch on that a little bit further, when people retire and we still have a commitment to make payment for their health insurance or their retirement benefit or whatever.
Not retirement.
Not retirement, I'm
No,
sorry.
I'll
Okay,
address that.
correct me, please
No,
do, because
no,
I
no.
want this right.
It's post-employment, and it relates to the health insurance benefits.
Health insurance only, that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Because health insurance is very expensive, and we do carry 75% of the health insurance for some of our employees due to their union contracts. So the money in that particular account is to meet the needs of what we refer to as unfunded pension liability.
Not pension.
Well,
No, I'll explain pension.
retirement liability then.
Not retirement.
Okay.
Only insurance. Only the OPEB account is for the
I'm glad you're doing this.
projected. We have actually had insurance actuaries come in and give us an estimate on what they expected this would be. And it gets looked at periodically to see where we are. This relates to when an employee retires from the town and their spouse, if they're covered under our group insurance, obviously the town's contribution, which is at 75% for active and retired employees, you have to have money to pay that for their lifetime. So that's what that's all about. To address retirement funds, we belong to the Bristol County Retirement System. Many, many years ago, when I was still in the school department, the Bristol County Retirement Board started looking, along with many other retirement boards in the state, started looking at its unfunded liability. It was a pay-as-you-go program. Mm-hmm. So what has happened over the years, the Bristol County Retirement Board has done exceptionally well with investments because they take the retirement deductions and invest them, and their return on investment has been excellent. I'm sure we'd all like to have what their return is. But I believe the last date I heard was that, and it may be sooner, Bristol County Retirement will be fully funded in 2024.
That is amazing. That
It's
is amazing.
one of the best run retirement systems in the state. And I can tell you that there is a board in Boston that oversees public retirement systems. And if a system does not reach or earn a certain amount of return on their investments, the state will take them over. There have been some counties who have been taken over by the state because their investments didn't reach what they should have to earn the money to help fund this liability. The other thing that happens is, in the past, every year, a town, such as Dighton, gets a bill from the county assessment. It's due shortly after the 1st of July. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a substantial amount of money. It covers benefits for actively retired people. It also has an amount in there that helps supplement the future benefits for retirement. And again, that money is taken and invested, and Bristol County has done an exceptional job. Every year we get a printout by retirement system to show what kind of returns they've had. And as I said, Bristol County's done a great job. So the liability for retirement is being addressed through the county, and it's almost paid up. And the town of Dighton has done exceptionally well, putting money aside to address future liability for group insurance for its retired employees.
Group insurance is extremely expensive.
Oh, yes.
And so,
Yes.
and we're talking more than one person many times, and so you're talking about a family plan, so that is a large cost. I don't want to carry this on any longer because I know it's, we're way over time, but, and Nancy had actually brought in some information on some programs that are already started that she was going to update us on, but I think because of the time frame, have you got anything there that you think we need to particularly talk about before we do this? Because we can do this again. I would have you come and share time with another guest to finish this.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to mention a couple of things. There are 5,445 registered voters in the town of Dighton. We don't get 5,400 people to turn out at an election. And we're lucky if we get 100 to turn out at a town meeting. So please, if you're available, come to the middle school on the 28th. The other thing is, I just want to mention the Miller's Lane project, because Mrs. Santos asked me about the project for complete streets, Center Street, Somerset Avenue, and Pearl Street. The project we're working on right now that you have funded is the Miller's Lane project. And we have moved this to the forefront because the first part of Miller's Lane, when you turn onto Miller's Lane from Anderson Drive, the old part of the road got accepted, but it was never really laid out and engineered. The property where that road is actually is private property. So the project that we are working on, the town is buying the land we need to do the road, and we are putting in a major drainage system, because one of the big problems is in the wintertime, the water flows from the east side of the road to the west and obviously freezes across Miller's Lane, and it becomes a sheet of ice. Mm-hmm. So Mr. Ferry and I and Mrs. Aaronstein, the town administrator, have met with some property owners. We've got a few more meetings, but we've explained to them what the project is and what the damages are that would be paid by the town. And Mr. Ferry told me that he has ordered supplies already. So because of the icing problem, we really have to address this one before winter sets in.
Yes.
So the folks on Miller's Lane that we've talked to, they know what it's about. The folks that may see this know that we will be in touch with them. But fingers crossed, the weather will hold and we get it done before snow flies.
Absolutely. I have a grandson who had his first automobile accident on Miller's Lane due to the icing situation.
Yes.
Thank goodness we've gotten past that. It scared me almost to death. Anyway, Nancy, thank you very, very much for an informative presentation. I really sincerely encourage everyone out there to please try to attend the special town meeting next Monday night. It's very, very important. And this is the basis of our freedom. This is the basis of our democracy. We've got lots of new folks in town. I'm hoping they'll watch the program and learn something about how things work and what we're doing. Now, because tonight's discussion has been lengthy, I will not add the Did You Know trivia part, but stay tuned because I intend to include a bit of Dighton history trivia in every program going forward. I'll just plan it a little better. But I want to thank Nancy very much for joining us, bringing us up to date on ongoing town projects and so forth. I hope to have a very special program planned for Veterans Day this year. Sincerely trying to include World War II veterans. They're leaving us at a very, very rapid rate. And the final saying always on this program as I say goodnight is, please remember to keep smiling. A smile is one of the greatest gifts we can share. It can change a very hard time in someone's life to a better day. You don't even need to know the person you share it with. It costs nothing, it gives everything, and everybody smiles in the same language. Good night, all.
Good night.